What is going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Hart, and today I'll be breaking down this two-game NBA play-in special we have today on DraftKings with the $100,000 up top to first place for Tuesday nights. We have the Hawks versus the Heat, and we have the Timberwolves versus the Lakers. So I'm going to be breaking it down, going through who we should target, game-by-game breakdowns, my favorite early little core plays, all that good stuff in this breakdown. If you want a more in-depth breakdown where I give updated core plays when we get the injury news, make sure to check out my Patreon link down below. Hit that like button and subscribe, and I will have a PrizePicks video out after this. Looking forward to absolutely crushing the PrizePicks playoffs and the DraftKings playoffs as well. So technically not the playoffs, but we were super, super close. I'm so pumped. Glad to be back. So let's get into this breakdown and let's have ourselves an absolute fantastic NBA playoffs. As you guys can tell from that intro, I am jacked up for the NBA playoffs. I know not a lot of people like watching the regular season NBA, and I get that. There's a lot that sucks about it, but the NBA playoffs are fantastic. Everyone actually tries and they go really, really hard. So it's going to be great. So for today, obviously, we have the two play-in games here. These are the 7 and 8 seeds. So if we head on over to my Twitter, make sure to follow me there at HeartDFS. So answer any questions, put up all my updated stuff. You can find my Patreon there, as well as all my PrizePicks plays. But as we can see here that I reposted, this is the playoffs. So for today, we obviously have the Heat and Miami down here in the bottom right hand corner, Miami and Atlanta. And then we also have the Lakers and the Timberwolves in this bottom left corner. So as we can see, the winner, it's not a winner go home game for both teams today. If whoever loses this game between the Heat and the Hawks, they had to play the winner of the Bulls and the Toronto Raptors. So they get another shot if they do lose tonight. Obviously, the same thing for the Lakers and Wolves. Because if you guys did not know, Rudy Gobert got suspended. So, and it wasn't from the NBA, it was from the Timberwolves themselves. And some people are like confused why, but it's not a winner go home game. So if they lose, they do get one more shot to beat the winner of the Pelicans and Thunder to get that eighth seed. So obviously, there's incentive to win this game. I think they'd rather play the Grizzlies than the Nuggets, and for the Heat and Hawks, I think they'd rather play Boston than the Bucks. Maybe I'm not sure, but as you can see, the seventh and eighth seeds, which are the games tonight, they don't have to win. It's not a win or go home. So maybe they will be a little bit limited on some people's minutes, just a touch, but it's not a win or go home. They still have one more shot in a few days to make it into the playoffs. So just keep that in mind. Tomorrow's slate obviously is totally different between the Pelicans and Thunder, and then the Bulls and the Raptors. Both those teams from both those games will be playing their starters pretty much the whole game. So a little bit different, but today we obviously have Atlanta and Miami. So for the Atlanta side and just the playoffs in general, once we get to the actual playoffs, and technically tomorrow with those other teams that actually need a win or it's go home, a lot of these teams are going to be running really, really, really tight rotations. So obviously during the regular NBA season, rotations can become 8, 9, 10, 11 man, 15 man at times, rotations. But in the playoffs, usually it's the top, obviously, 5 guys, the starters, and then they'll sprinkle in maybe 2 to 3 other guys off the bench, depending on if there's foul trouble, obviously injuries. But yeah, it gets really, really tight. People's minutes go up. So expect a lot of minutes for these starters. So for the Atlanta side here, Trae Young, I think it's going to be an interesting contrarian spin up option. The reason why I say that is he got absolutely thrown into Guantanamo Bay last playoffs against the Heat. He was god awful. So I expect the Heat to have the similar game plan to him and Trae Young. Let's just admit it. He's kind of been disappointing this year. I mean, he's just quietly gotten 26 points per game, 10 assists per game. I think it was super quiet. Obviously, did not make the All Star game. His defense has gotten a little bit better, but I don't know. It just seems like he flew under the radar. Wasn't the best this season. So, but I think that makes him a solid contrarian spin up because it's going against a game environment where I think a lot of people are going to obviously go to this Miami and Lakers game, stack that game, maybe get a couple Heat pieces. I don't think a lot of people really like the Atlanta side, so I think you guys can get some low owned pieces here with Trae Young at the top being the number one option. 10K, obviously a bit pricey. There's a lot of other better options, but you can get him at pretty low ownership. He's contrarian. As we can see, he's huge upside. So this could be a spot where he goes for 10 plus assists just because the Heat probably won't want him to shoot the ball, so they'll make him pass more, obviously leading to more assists. So I think for Trae Young, we can expect close to 40 minutes, maybe even a little bit more here for him. But yeah, contrarian spin up option for him. DeJounte Murray, kind of the same thing, 8,800 for him. is super, super contrarian. I don't love it because we have Jimmy, who's around the same price. We have Tyler Hero. We have Bam. We have a couple of those Minnesota guys, Cat, Anthony Edwards. So for that reason, I don't think many people will go to DeJounte Murray. But as we know, if Trey Young is stifled by the Miami defense, DeJounte Murray most likely will step up and shoot the ball a ton. So I can see him being super, super contrarian and really separating you from the pack if you want to go that route. Clint Capella, I would assume he sees probably 30 minutes, maybe even more. I know for a lot of the season, he was kind of floating around that 30-minute mark, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, a few games here and there. But I think we do see probably at least 30 minutes from him, which makes him a very solid player there at 6,200. Obviously, not the best matchup guarding Bam. Bam is pretty mobile. So there is some foul trouble risk for Clint Capella. Sadiq Bey, 5,800, he will probably move back to the bench. So I don't have much interest in him at 5,800 at that price tag coming off the bench. Maybe he sees 20. A lot of these minutes are with guys hurt, so he did get the start. But I mean, as you can see here, when he moved to the bench, he was seeing anywhere from like 18 to 25 minutes, depending on how he was playing. So I don't love it at that price tag. His minutes are just not safe and secure enough to go to him at that price tag. But I guess it makes him a risky option. John Collins, he will start. Obviously, there's a foul trouble. He gets in foul trouble a lot. He's super inconsistent. He's been doing a little bit better recently. Obviously, there's some injuries, so it does, put some usage his way. But I think we can expect at least 25, if not, 30 plus minutes for John Collins. 5,300. I think he's a pretty solid value option there. Obviously, he's risky. He's not been the best this season, but we know he has huge upside if he can hit his shots, especially his threes. So I think he's a solid value play there at 5,300 in the mid range. Bogdan, I assume he would be popular. He'll probably be one of the more popular options on this Hawk side, just because he's kind of a great GPP play. And what I mean by that is his minutes. He'll probably see some more now, just because it's the playoffs. They could use his playmaking and scoring off the bench. He's kind of limited at times off the bench during the regular season, but I think we expect at least 25 minutes from him off the bench, especially if Trey Young's not doing well and they need some scoring. They're definitely going to look to Bogdanovich here, who has huge upside in limited minutes. So I do think he's a very solid option, him and John Collins. And then moving down below that, Okongwu, he's a decent option. We'll get the backup center run behind Capella. He's, pretty productive, so I don't mind landing on him, but it's just one of those things like his minutes aren't guaranteed to go up, even though it's the playoffs. And then next, kind of the last guy I'll look to is DeAndre Hunter, who I do really like. The past two games, obviously, there's been some blowouts. He's been some, injuries. Only saw 17 minutes there. So I think in a normal game here for the playoffs, he's going to see 35, if not more minutes. And he will shoot the ball a good amount. As you can see here, he's probably averaging close to 15 shot attempts per game. And actually closer to 14, but still, that's a ton for him. He's kind of scoring dependent at times, but if he's hitting a shot and he's getting some peripheral stats, I think he's way too cheap here at 4,900. And that's going to be the rotation there for the Hawks. I don't really think they'll throw in Jalen Johnson or AJ Griffin. If they do, I think it's maybe 15 minutes at most between the two to kind of just throw them in there to give some guys breathers. But I think that's about it. Kind of will be like an 8-man rotation for the Hawks. And then moving on to Miami, obviously it's a way better matchup for them here. Jimmy, he's a guy who steps up in the playoffs. Obviously, he puts everything on his shoulders. So I think he looks very, very solid as a play there at 9,000. I think he'll be pretty popular today. Bam, I love Bam a lot here. One of those guys who will probably see close to 40 minutes. We know the upside there with Bam. So I love Bam. Great matchup there against Clint Capella. He will be popular. And same thing with Tyler Hero. All three of these guys should be very, very popular. Tyler Hero is pretty cheap there at 6,800. Sometimes he is scoring dependent, but we know he can do a little bit of everything: score, dish some assists, get some rebounds, get some steals. So another guy that should see, all three of these guys should see close to 40 minutes. All three of them look fantastic. In terms of the rest of the team, Strus looks like he's good to go. He's a little bit too pricey for me at 5,400. He should move back to the bench unless they want to keep him in the starting lineup. We'll have to wait and see with that Kyle Lowry news there. But yeah, Strus, I guess if he starts, he's an okay option. But if he comes off the bench, not much interest for me with him just because he's super scoring dependent. I don't mind taking a shot on Caleb Martin. Should see his kind of normal 25 to 30-ish minutes. He can be productive if he's hitting his threes. So I guess he's worth a look. But not much to love here in terms of like the value for the Heat. Zeller, don't know if he'll be in the rotation. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe off the bench, he'll get like 10 to 15 minutes at most. Kevin Love will probably see his normal minutes. Maybe they do rely on him more in these playoffs. Maybe we can see his minutes go up. I don't mind taking a shot there, but if he plays more, it kind of does hurt Bam a little bit. So definitely keep that in mind. I don't know if I'd pair the two of them together in a lineup. Gabe Vincent, him and Oladipo are only viable if there's no Lowry. Now, if there is Lowry, he should probably see close to mid-20s minutes. And I think he'd be a very solid option down there at 4,000. Obviously, if he's out, it means Gabe Vincent will probably start. I think he'd be an okay option at 4,500. And then Oladipo maybe would see some minutes off the bench. We don't know. He's gotten some DMPs. He obviously played with those other guys getting ruled out. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, it's really just the main three guys there for Miami. And then moving on to the second game here, Minnesota and Lakers. Obviously, the big news there for Minnesota is Gobert's out. They suspended him for a game, and then McDaniels, he broke his hand, and then obviously Naz Reid is out. So that's the big news there. So they'll probably start Anthony Edwards, Cat, who should be good to go, Kyle Anderson, Mike Conley, and most likely Torian Prince. So with that in mind, Cat and Anthony Edwards will probably be two of the most popular plays of the day, and for good reason. Obviously, a great match here versus the Lakers, and both these guys should be playing 40 plus minutes. As we can see, Anthony Edwards has been pretty productive the past 4 games, and he's pretty cheap, 9,100 for his production. Same thing with Cat, 8,600. He's kind of been limited on his minutes, even though he's been shooting the ball a ton. I expect 40 minutes from him here tonight. 8,600. We know the upside with him. Anthony Davis is not really the best defender. So him and Anthony Davis are going to be going at each other. They should have huge ceilings. So I really like both of them here tonight. I'm going to throw Cat in for right now. And then I don't mind the secondary options on the Timberwolves. Kyle Anderson's pretty expensive, but he probably plays close to 40 minutes in this game tonight. He'll at least probably play 35. I would assume they throw a few extra minutes his way. And he does have some upside even playing along Cat and Anthony Edwards. So I think a lot of people will be scared away from that price tag, but I think it's a great option to go to him in the mid range, especially if you don't pay up for like Anthony Edwards or Cat. He's a very solid option. Mike Conley, 7,000 basically for me. I guess you could play him. He's playable, but don't love the price tag there. Torian Prince, I think he's a solid option. If he starts, he should see about 30-ish minutes, maybe some more. So 5,600, I think it's a fine play. He will be like the fourth option. So there is a little risk at his price tag, but still, I think he's a pretty solid play there. And then off the bench, I would assume, I think Noel is back. I think if he's back and good to go, they will play him over a McLaughlin or NAW. So that, him being back will eat into the NAW and McLaughlin minutes. I think they do rely on Noel. He's been kind of a microwave off the bench. Even in limited minutes, he will be super aggressive and can get you there. As you can see here, 20 minutes, 1 for 28. So yeah, I do really like taking a shot at him if you want a value play across the board. There's not much. I think Noel would probably be the best option there. We just gotta wait and see if there's a minutes limit. I don't like it, but if there's no minutes limit, he could push into the 20s depending on how he's shooting the ball. And if there's any like foul trouble for one of these guards, like a Prince or a Conley, they could definitely look to Noel. So I really like him at 3,300 as a value play. I do think he's the number one option over NAW and McLaughlin. And between those two, I think maybe they go to NAW over McLaughlin, but I don't know. I don't feel great about that. Maybe it's McLaughlin. I'm not sure. I know Noel would probably be the number one option out of those three guards. And then maybe number two would probably be McLaughlin. But yeah, if Noel's back and good to go, I don't have much interest in NAW or McLaughlin. They'd be super risky plays there. And in terms of like the backups, Knight and Garza might split the center minutes between the two. Of like the backups off the bench to kind of fill in for Cat and maybe some Prince. But yeah, it's kind of hard to trust. I do think the Timberwolves are going to run their starters into the ground tonight. So I don't know if we can trust Knights and Garza. You could take a shot there, but we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, not much to like there besides kind of the main starters in Noel. On to the Lakers side here, obviously Anthony Davis, LeBron look fantastic. It's going to be a little bit tough to pay up to these guys just because there's not much value. You're kind of forcing value in. So that may keep the ownership down on guys like Anthony Davis and LeBron. But if you can get to them and you feel great with ownership, I think they both look fantastic. D'Lo looks like he should be good to go. I don't mind him as like a mid-range option. Still, I just prefer getting to LeBron and AD. Him and Austin Reeves, kind of the same plays there. I mean, they both have upside, but still, you just don't feel great paying 7,000 for like the third and fourth option on the team. It's really just going to be LeBron and Anthony Davis show. So for that reason, they are playable. But I don't love them. And then in terms of like the rest of the value, they'll run the rotation of these. They'll start Anthony Davis, LeBron, D'Lo, Reeves, and then Jared Vanderbilt, who I think is an okay value play. His minutes have kind of been limited, but they probably will need him on defense guarding Anthony Edwards. So I could see him getting mid 20s minutes, which he could get you there. So I don't mind him as a value play there at 4,400. And then off the bench, they'll probably bring Malik Beasley, maybe some Troy Brown, and then some Dennis Schroeder, and maybe a little bit of like Rui or Gabriel, just to kind of spell Anthony Davis. But yeah, off the bench, not much interest besides maybe taking a shot on Beasley, who should come in, probably see 20-ish minutes. If he hits his shots, he could get you there. But yeah, not a lot to like here on the Lakers side besides kind of the main two guys. That's going to be doing it for the breakdown today, guys. Make sure to check out my PrizePicks video, which will come out after this. I will have a more updated, in-depth breakdown later today on my Patreon, which so be sure to check that out. Hit that like button. And I'll see you guys in the PrizePicks video.